and convert it into an electrical signal, which is through electrodes implanted into the optic nerve, which takes a message to the brain. And I think there's been even media coverage of that recently. Who knows? Maybe one day we may be able to do something like that. But of course, with diabetes, it's better to try and cure the diabetes. And that's another area. There are surgeons now who can transplant pancreatic tissue in. And the pancreas is the organ that produces the insulin, and which is missing from a diabetic. And so we might actually be able to cure the disease and then reverse the problems that were being caused by the abnormal metabolism.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah. Going back to your type of surgery, if you've just joined BBC Guernsey, I'm talking to laser eye surgeon Professor Dan Reinstein, who has developed a technique within the field of surgery, eye surgery, which means that you might be able to ditch your reading glasses altogether. The surgery itself, does it hurt, Professor Reinstein?
The surgery itself, you don't feel a thing. And I say that to everyone I operate on before I do the surgery. And I can tell you that 999 out of 1,000 sit up after the surgery and say to me, wow, that didn't hurt. So I don't know how to get the message through. I'm saying it again. I don't know if this is being recorded, but I'm saying this on the record. The surgery does not hurt. So, yeah, no, you don't feel a thing. It's a little bit strange, of course.
Yeah.
It's strange, but it doesn't hurt. And it's very easy for the patient. And some of the folklore around laser eye surgery is that, well, if you blink, that's it, you're blind. Or if you move your head or if you sneeze. And the fact is that with the most advanced equipment, not what we were using 20 years ago, but now, the most advanced equipment is equipped with eye tracking and all kinds of systems so that it doesn't matter if you cough or sneeze or blink or turn your head, it doesn't change the results. In fact, there's basically nothing the patient can do except run out of the room to change the results.
What happens when people are finished with the operation, they sit up? I mean, is there an immediate result?
Yeah, I mean, the vision's a little bit blurry when you sit up because, we've just been doing the surgery, there's a bit of tissue swelling. But depending on the prescription, so people with higher prescriptions, indeed, they're the ones who sit up and look around the room and burst into tears because they just can't believe what just happened. They've had a procedure that took a couple of minutes to do. They hardly felt anything. And then they sit up and they can see. And they were disabled, basically. And now they're not. It's literally like a magic trick.
You mentioned earlier that we have a dominant eye, a master eye. How do we know which one is the strongest in our heads?
There are lots of tests for determining the dominance. And we use, in fact, in my clinic, we use 5 tests and sometimes more because some people are not strongly dominant. It happens often. People who are left-handed, for example, might have weak dominance in their eyes. And it's all to do with why are we right-handed and why are we left-handed. I don't know the answer to that, but there are tests that we do that will tell us which eye is the dominant eye. I mean, one of the easiest ways of doing it is to pretend you're about to, you grab something, pretend it's a camera, and bring it up to your face as if you're going to take a picture and see which eye you were going to look through. And the eye that you were going to use, that tends to be your dominant eye.
Wow, okay, I'm going to try that. You've operated on your wife, I understand.
I have.
And your parents.
That's a test. The story is like this. The first one, obviously I examine my family's eyes because I want them to I can't have anybody in my family getting an eye problem under my nose. And one year I was examining my father's, about 8 years ago. 7 years ago. He was 73. And he said, when can I have the laser for your reading vision? Because we'd sort of been doing it. And I said, well, Dad, I can't really do surgery on you. He says, well, why not? And I thought, well, let's talk about it another time. It was Thursday afternoon, late.
It's not very ethical, is it?
Oh, it's perfectly ethical. It's not recommended.
No,
it's not recommended.
Your parents sue you.
Well, there have been. Your wife can sue you on a divorce. So, anyway, point being that once he said that, I was examining him. I let him go from the clinic, and I thought, if I was going to recommend that he had blended vision, who would I send him to?
Mm.
And if he was to have a complication, who in the world would I send him to who would be more qualified than me to repair it? And when I realized the answer to those questions, I thought, I have no choice, but I have to do it. And then the only thing was, how do I get my head around this? And so what I did was I looked at the schedule for my surgery the next day. My first case was scheduled at 8:30. And I called him up, and I said, Dad, if you come in at 8 tomorrow morning, you'll be the first patient on the list. And that way I thought, I'm minimizing the amount of time I'm going to contemplate what I'm doing, like from a sort of personal standpoint. And it was just, one night to get through. And the next morning, it was surprisingly easy, because when you've done something, 20,000 times, there is a certain automation in the process. And if you can get into that Zen moment of how you automate your perfection and how you automate your awareness of different elements during the surgery, then it really doesn't matter what human being is at the other end of that eye. It doesn't matter if it's the President of the United States or a bricklayer from Liverpool. It's the same. The eye gets the same treatment.
Well, I found that absolutely fascinating. I don't know if you did. I listened to every word from Professor Dan Reinstein, who's a laser eye surgeon and professor of ophthalmology. And, of course, as you heard, they're a pioneer in the field of eye surgery. So I hope you found that informative. He was speaking to Jenny Kendall Tobias, so she made that one for you earlier. And Jenny's back with you tomorrow. I've just been sitting in for the day today. But he also commented on loss of sight through diabetes. And this, of course, is National Diabetes Awareness Week, and you can hear from Guernsey diabetes nurse Anne Kinch this Thursday in the mid-morning show, which will be presented by JKT. The time now 4 minutes to 1. The Islands at 1 follows this.